Hatshepsut, born 1507 BC, died 1458 BC, was the great royal wife of Pharaoh Thutmose II and the fifth pharaoh of the 18th dynasty of Egypt, ruling first as regent, then as queen regnant, from 1479 BC until 1458 BC. She was Egypt's second confirmed queen regnant, the first being Sobek Nefru, or Nefru Sobek, in the 12th dynasty. Hatshepsut was the daughter of Thutmose I and great royal wife Ahmose. Upon the death of her husband and half-brother Thutmose II, she had initially ruled as regent to her stepson, Thutmose III, who inherited the throne at the age of 2. Several years into her regency, Hatshepsut assumed the position of pharaoh and adopted the full royal titulary, making her a co-ruler alongside Thutmose III. In order to establish herself in the Egyptian patriarchy, she took on traditionally male roles and was depicted as a male pharaoh with physically masculine traits and traditionally male garb. Hatshepsut's reign was a period of great prosperity and general peace.
Fear of her royal line losing the kingship but encouraged Hatshepsut to become pharaoh. Her claim to more power was supported, and she received the official regalia of the pharaoh, including the kat headcloth featuring the uraeus, the rearing cobra, a traditional false beard, and shendit kilt. Many statues survive showing Hatshepsut in this androgynous royal attire. In reliefs, she is shown striding forward and standing tall, as well as the traditional pious kneeling position rather than the demure postures of Egyptian female figures. The feminine ankle-length dress and closed-feet stance are rarely used in images of Hatshepsut. There was no word for queen in ancient Egypt. King's wife was the title given to those who married the pharaoh. The ruler was called the king or pharaoh, no matter their gender. In the majority of the statues and works of art that have survived until the modern day, Hatshepsut is presented as a masculine king. This was one of the reasons why it took Egyptologists so long to identify her. Hieroglyphic inscriptions said female king, but the imagery was almost entirely masculine. Presenting herself as a male king wasn't deceitful, it was tradition. Egyptian art often presented things as they should be rather than how they are. Older kings and infant kings, like Thutmose III, were also presented as having youthful, trim, masculine physiques. She presented herself as other kings did. Relief scenes show Hatshepsut completing historic kingly rituals, from making offerings to the gods and celebrating festivals to trampling foreign captives in the form of a sphinx. Hatshepsut did not completely hide her femininity as she took on the masculine attributes of the kingship. She replaced the traditional male titles and epithets used on hieroglyphic labels on statues and reliefs with feminine variations. Her name was often followed up with daughter of Re, and the feminine word endings she used led to grammatical oxymorons like His Majesty herself. In private spaces, statues of Hatshepsut depicted her with a mix of male and female attributes. Two rare examples of these statues, now in the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, show her with the masculine headdress of the pharaoh combined with an obvious feminine silhouette or even in full feminine dress. It was in public spaces, such as on the processional way, that her statues presented her as a young king in the prime of life. When in sphinx form, kneeling or standing, Hatshepsut's statues sought to portray her as the ideal male king. She also called on the religious aspects of the pharaoh to bolster her legitimacy. She styled herself as Matkare, meaning truth is the soul of the sun god, to emphasize her connection to Amun. She aimed to highlight her moral responsibilities as pharaoh. Ma'at, meaning the truth, order and justice bestowed by the gods, referred to her ability as the legitimate pharaoh to communicate with the gods. This title plainly said that she was destined to help maintain Ma'at and bring stability and prosperity to Egypt. Hatshepsut's legitimacy was further bolstered by the proclamation of the Oracle of Amun. The oracle declared that Hatshepsut's rise to become pharaoh was in fact Amun's will. Hatshepsut promoted the words of the oracle by carving the following proclamation on many of her grand monuments. "Welcome, my sweet daughter, my favorite, the king of Upper and Lower Egypt, Ma'at-Kare Hatshepsut. Thou art the pharaoh, taking possession of the two lands."
One of the most prolific builders in ancient Egypt, she oversaw large-scale construction projects such as the Karnak Temple Complex, the Red Chapel, the Speos Artemidos, and most famously, the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut, Adir al-Bahari. Hatshepsut died probably in the year 22 of Thutmose III, towards the end of the reign of Thutmose III, and into the reign of his son, Amenhotep II. An attempt was made to remove her from official accounts of Egyptian historiography. Her statues were destroyed, her monuments were defaced, and many of her achievements were ascribed to other pharaohs. Many modern historians attribute this to ritual and religious reasons, rather than personal hostility as previously thought. At the Deir el-Bahari temple, Hatshepsut's many statues were torn down, and in many cases smashed or disfigured before being buried in a pit. At Karnak, an attempt was made to wall off her monuments. While it is clear that much of this rewriting of Hatshepsut's history occurred only during the close of Thutmose III's reign, it is not clear why it happened, other than as a manifestation of the typical pattern of self-promotion that existed among the pharaohs and their administrators, or perhaps to save money by not building new monuments for the burial of Thutmose III, and instead using the grand structures built by Hatshepsut. Amenhotep II, the son of Thutmose III, who became a co-regent toward the end of his father's reign, is suspected by some as being the defacer during the end of the reign of a very old pharaoh. He would have had a motive because his position in the royal lineage was not so strong as to assure his elevation to pharaoh. He is documented further as having usurped many of Hatshepsut's accomplishments during his own reign. His reign is marked with attempts to break the royal lineage as well, not recording the names of his queens and eliminating the powerful titles and official roles of royal women, such as God's wife of Amun. Some of these titles would be restored in the reign of his son, Thutmose IV. For many years, presuming that it was Thutmose III acting out of resentment once he became pharaoh, early modern Egyptologists presumed that the erasures were similar to the Roman damnatio memoriae.
There is evidence to suggest that Hatshepsut herself was conscious that her legacy might be deliberately buried. On a second pair of obelisks at Karnak, she had the following inscription inscribed: "Now my heart turns this way and that as I think what the people will say, those who shall see my monuments in years to come and who shall speak of what I have done." Although she temporarily disappeared from history and was not the most famous female pharaoh, a distinction reserved for Cleopatra, Hatshepsut arguably left the greatest cultural legacy of any pharaoh. Her monuments and temples inspired thousands of architectural works even after she was gone. Some of the greatest architectural wonders of the ancient world, including her mortuary temple, were built during her reign. Masses of exotic goods, artifacts, artworks and monuments found from Hatshepsut's reign show that she laid the foundations of the golden age of the new kingdom. Ancient Egypt undoubtedly flourished under her rule.
Egyptologist Donald Redford said that this was not born out of hatred, but was a political necessity to assert his own beliefs. Redford added, "But did Thutmose remember her? Here and there, in the dark recesses of a shrine or tomb where no plebeian eye could see, the queen's cartouche and figure were left intact, which never vulgar eye would again behold, still conveyed for the king the warmth and awe of a divine presence."
It has been suggested that her image and name survived out of the public eye because whoever had orchestrated her erasure had wanted to avoid sacrilege. Mortuary temples were built to honor the gods, but also to provide a home for the cult of that particular pharaoh, The cult of the pharaoh would continue to worship the pharaoh after they had died, performing rituals which renewed the pharaoh's divinity. It was believed that after their death, pharaohs became fully divine and assimilated with Osiris, god of reincarnation, and Ra, god of the sun. Given this view of Egyptian kingship, whoever erased Hatshepsut may have deliberately avoided tarnishing her divinity. Another theory was that Thutmose aimed to relegate Hatshepsut to the position of regent, the traditional role of powerful women, in order to safeguard future royal succession patterns. The achievements of Hatshepsut's reign was evidence that the traditional male role of pharaoh could be successfully held by a woman. Hatshepsut proved, more so than other ancient Egyptian female rulers, that a woman could rule during a long, prosperous and expansive period.
In the mid-morning of November 17th, 6 gunmen killed 58 foreign nationals and 4 Egyptians. The assailants were armed with knives and automatic firearms and disguised as members of the security forces. They descended on the mortuary temple of Hatshepsut at around 8:45 a.m. They killed 2 armed guards at the site. While the tourists were trapped inside the temple, the killing went on systematically for 45 minutes, during which many bodies, especially of women, were mutilated with machetes. The body of an elderly Japanese man was also found mutilated. A leaflet was discovered stuffed into his body that read, "No to tourists in Egypt," and was signed Omar Abdul Rahman's Squadron of Havoc and Destruction, the Gama al-Islamiyya, the Islamic group. The dead included a 5-year-old British child, Shauna Turner, Turner's mother and grandmother, and 4 Japanese couples on honeymoon. There were 26 survivors. The attackers then hijacked a bus, but ran into a checkpoint of armed Egyptian National Police and military forces.
The hijacked coach, Hagag Nahas, was trying to avoid tourist sites and look for help. After 30 minutes, he spotted a police checkpoint and slowed. The terrorists realized that the driver had taken them the wrong way and took their revenge.
One of them hit me in the shoulder with the butt of his rifle. He hit me so hard that my shoulder broke. I completely lost the use of this arm.
Alerted by frantic calls from the temple, the checkpoint police opened fire. The 6 terrorists jumped off the bus and ran into the nearby hills, chased by police and local Egyptians. A tourist captured the moment on their camera. With this gun battle raging around them, tourists and Egyptians took shelter in the entrance of a nearby tomb.
One of the terrorists was wounded in the subsequent shootout, and the rest fled into the hills, where their bodies were found in a cave, apparently having committed suicide together. One or more of Al-Jamia al-Islamiya's leaflets were found calling for the release of Omar Abdel Rahman from a U.S. prison, stating that the attack had been carried out as a gesture to exiled leader Mustafa Hamza, or declaring, "We shall take revenge for our brothers who have died on the gallows. The depths of the earth are better for us than the surface, since we have seen our brothers squatting in their prisons and our brothers and families tortured in their jails." The attack is believed to have been carried out by the Al-Jamia al-Islamiya in an attempt to undermine their July 1997 nonviolence initiative to devastate the Egyptian economy and provoke the government into repression, which they assumed would strengthen support for anti-government forces. However, the attack ended up leading to internal divisions among the militants and resulted in the declaration of a ceasefire. In June 2013, the group denied that it was involved in the massacre.
A certain American religious sect has been looking at conditions of the world during the flood. According to their calculations, during the flood, the winds, tides, and currents were in an overall southeasterly direction. This would then mean that in order for Noah's Ark to have ended up on Mount Ararat here, would had to have started out several thousand miles to the west. This would then locate pre-flood civilization somewhere in the area of upstate New York and the Garden of Eden in New York City.
This is war. This is terrorist war.
Incredible sight, Mark. Of course, terrorists, you remember, tried but failed in 1993 to blow up the towers of the West, as they are known by some across the world. And of course, this day they succeeded. These towers, just for a little bit of history, the towers were completed in 1976. They were, I should say, immense in every detail. 43,000 windows, 99 elevators, all crumbled to the ground as we speak at this hour. They were designed to be especially sturdy. All the more horrific this scene is today.
And the most frightening, perhaps, remembrance we all have, or those who paid attention, Ramzi Youssef, who was the ringleader of the attempt to destroy these buildings in 1993, was being taken away by federal agents in a helicopter. And as they flew over Lower Manhattan, one of the FBI agents said to him, "Mr. Youssef, you see the World Trade Centers are still standing." And he said, "Yes, but if we had enough money, they wouldn't be." So many people are linking what happened today to Osama bin Laden, the man who was behind that other effort in 1993. Obviously, we can't say that, but we can speculate, as has been done all day.
And there is a lot of speculation about that attack, focusing on bin Laden. Of course, he's been given an asylum, Mark, in Afghanistan. And it is interesting to note that today's attacks occurred one day before the scheduled sentencing of one of Osama bin Laden's associates. He was to have been sentenced tomorrow, or perhaps he still will be, in district court in Manhattan. His name, Mohammed Rashid Daoud al-Ahali. He was convicted of a terrorist bombing of the U.S. Embassy in Tanzania that claimed more than 200 lives.
Why he did that?
The massacre took place an hour before the state visit of Queen Beatrix of the Netherlands and Prince Consort Klaus. Following the attack, President Hosni Mubarak replaced Interior Minister General Hassan al-Alfi with General Habib al-Adli. The Swiss Federal Police later determined that Osama bin Laden had financed the operation. The tourist industry in Egypt was seriously affected by the resultant slump in visitors and remained depressed until sinking even lower with the September 11th attacks in the United States in 2001, the 2005 Sharm el-Sheikh attacks, and the 2006 Dahab bombings. The massacre marked a decisive drop in Islamist terrorist fortunes in Egypt by turning public opinion overwhelmingly against them. Terrorist attacks declined dramatically following the backlash from the massacre. Organizers and supporters of the attack quickly realized that the strike had been a massive miscalculation and reacted with denials of involvement. The day after the attack, Al-Jama'ah al-Islamiyah leader Rifai Ahmed Taha claimed the attackers intended only to take the tourists hostage, despite the immediate and systematic nature of the slaughter. Others denied Islamist involvement completely. Sheikh Omar Abdel Rahman blamed Israelis for the killing, and Ayman Zawahiri maintained the attack was the work of the Egyptian police.